what are the top 5 most common home inspection findings related to insulation and ventilation? In this video, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Let's dive in and get going. Hey, what's up? It's me, Haley Jones, your local Knoxville and East Tennessee real estate agent. I help clients buy and sell homes and land in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area. Of course, I make these videos so that you'll call me so we can work together on your real estate goals. So there's that. Now let's talk about what the hell are we talking about today? We're talking about insulation and ventilation related to home inspections, because a lot of times on the sell side, you're like, I don't know what I need to fix, or the things that I could address now that I could avoid later on a home inspection report. And on the buy side, a lot of people want to know, like, hey, is this common? Is this a common finding? And this video is going to help answer that when it comes to insulation and ventilation. Now, this video is also a part of a series. I have one on plumbing, HVAC, roofing, structural issues, exterior components, radon, new construction, electrical, okay? All the things. So go check those out. Because I think they're informative, and, maybe you just love home inspections, and maybe you just like to want to know the information, but they are informative. Okay. All jokes aside. So how exactly did we do this? If you've seen the other ones, you already know I pulled 150 past client home inspection reports. The 150. We then analyzed to see what were the most common in each of the major sections of a home inspection report. So this video, insulation and ventilation, of 150 reports, there were 259 line items related to insulation and ventilation. So around 1.5-ish findings per report. Now that's an average. Some reports had none. Some reports had 10. So that being said, let's dive in and let's talk about it. The number one most common thing related to insulation and ventilation also is in the plumbing video. Can you guess what it is? It is bathroom exhaust fans venting into the attic or have an improper termination. So literally, bathroom exhaust fan venting into the attic, or this could be like your sewer exhaust in general, venting into the attic. But the bathroom exhaust fan, that's the fan that's going in the bathroom, that vent is going into the attic. Now, here's the problem with this. It's not supposed to do that, for one. For two, that causes all kinds of air discrepancies and moisture problems, right? Because you're basically venting out moisture into your attic, which you better hope your attic is properly vented. That's a whole other conversation. But also, you'll see something on there that says sewer gas is being vented into the attic, and that grosses people out, and nobody wants that. So on the sell side, this is not really one that you're going to really know about unless it happened when you bought the house. And I was talking to my husband about this one, and he thinks that basically what happened is when a house was built, the roof was put on before the ventilation was put in for the plumbing, for example, which means no plumber is probably going to be going to mess with the roof, right? So anyways, that being said, this one is so common. I see it all the time. This happens all the time. And my husband was like, what? I was like, yeah, it happens all the time. Literally all the time. So as a buyer, you can ask for it to be repaired. You do want to be careful what you ask and how you ask it and who you say you're going to do the work. Because if you are wanting them to vent it through the roof, then you want to make sure that they're actually using a legitimate person to do it. You know what I'm saying? Catch what I'm laying down? Okay. Number 2, crawl space moisture barrier missing, gapped, or loose. Now, essentially, the whole thing here is that your dirt, the crawl space area, is said to need a moisture barrier because you have moisture coming out from the ground, which causes condensation in the air, which could result in mold and mildew and all the bad the bad M words: mold, mildew, microbial growth, all those things, right? And so that's the whole point here. A lot of times, usually when we see moisture barrier issues, it's like it doesn't cover the whole space. It's cramped up. It just needs to be re-spread out. typically is what we see. Gapped or loose is the terms they use. We also see where the moisture barrier is just missing in general. My own personal home does not have a moisture barrier. Again, I was talking to my husband about this, and he's like, our dirt down there is dry as a bone. Now this house is old, so how that's even possible, I'm not even sure. But that being said, some people take this very seriously and will ask for an encapsulation, which is quite expensive. So, on the sell side, do you need to just put a new moisture barrier down or fix the one you have? And on the buy side, when you're asking for an encapsulation, I've seen a seller give a credit for an encapsulation. I've not seen a seller encapsulate the whole crawl space. I've seen an encapsulation repair. I've seen where a seller did an encapsulation prior to going on market, but just typically know that you might get a credit for that. But when that's being asked for, typically there needs to be a glaring issue going on with the crawl space. So maybe I have seen where there's been a credit for a dehumidifier, but not necessarily the entire encapsulation, or money towards an encapsulation, but again, not that 12,000, 20,000, whatever, depending on the square footage of that crawl space. It's going to cost you the dollars. So just know that this is something that comes up. This is East Tennessee. This is a moist climate. We've got the most salamanders in all the world, supposedly. So they like it here because it's kind of wet. So anyways, that being said, this does come up quite often. I feel like I just took it off the rails with the salamanders, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, number 3, attic insulation is low, there's voids in it, or it's uneven. So insulation noted with low areas and or voids, literally they'll, like, with a measuring tape, be like, this insulation is only a centimeter. Not really. I mean, that's aggressive, but visible drywall or sheetrock showing where it shouldn't be. Maybe it's below the recommended value, R value, or insulation missing or pushed back around wires or pipes. So basically the insulation is not sufficient. This one, you don't see a ton of it. You often see it in an older house. You also can often see it in like new construction where they've not put insulation for some reason or another. And in that case, usually there is a reason. And so that's something that you want to clarify, like where exactly is it missing? And they get it. Oftentimes you want a second opinion on like what it is. But typically, this isn't a huge one this isn't one that's like comes up often. When it does come up, it's like, hey, like what's happening there? You get clarification. You might get a second look at it as a buyer. On the sell side, as a seller, you wouldn't really know this unless you're just like unless you just are in your attic all the time. Things like that. So anyways, okay. Number 4, dryer vent deficiency. I hate this one. Flex foil vinyl, damaged missing caps, venting is improper. Basically the foil duct that we all know is not appropriate. It's a fire risk. An inspector is going to tell you to replace with metal. Fire risk, replace with metal. Damaged exterior dryer vent caps or missing caps. So this is one, for example, my own mother. I was at her house last week and her dryer is like pulled from the wall. And I was like, Mom, what's happening here? She's like, well, there was no cap over back up. She was like, my dryer wasn't drying. I was having to run things like 10 times. She didn't say 10, maybe she said 3, okay? But she was like, I was having to run my dryer multiple times, whatever, it wasn't working properly. She's like, and then I noticed, so then she pulled the dryer out, and then she like looked in her dryer vent and it was full. Like she showed me these pictures. I mean, it was like caked with stuff. I mean, come on, mouse droppings, blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, there was no vent cap on the outside. So it was exposed to the elements. I'm sure there was like mice. I'm sure there was leaves in there, plus the dust, plus the debris from the laundry itself. I mean, it was a disaster. So she was having that cleaned out. All that being said, Dryer vents should be venting properly, and they should have a cover over them. When they're venting to the outside, they should be covered. Nothing from the outside should be able to come in. And then at the same time, they shouldn't be kinked. They shouldn't be, the dryer vent should not be like going out into the attic, or, you know, basically venting out to somewhere that is going to cause a condensation problem, because that's hot air coming out, right? So if it's like venting into the attic, not ideal, right? Because you're going to create a temperature difference, which is going to create condensation, which is going to create those M words: mold, mildew, microbial growth. You get what I'm saying. Lint buildup, the ducting is too long or separated in the wall. So there's just all kinds of things about ducting. Now, some of this, as a seller, like, you know, you just can go ahead and address. Some of it is going to come up on a home inspection report. Some buyers are going to ask for it to be fixed. If you're a buyer, know that this is quite common. Things with the ducting or the dryer vent. So is it a major? It can be. It just depends what exactly is going on. So just be aware that could be a finding, and it's not completely like, oh my God, this doesn't happen ever. It does happen quite a bit. Okay, number 5. Crawl space and attic ventilation issues. Foundation vents closed, insufficient. Attic ventilation is poor or blocked. So basically your crawl space for your attic, crawl space, you can see on the bottom, have what looks like, it looks like an air register actually, like just an air register that you would see in the ceiling or the floor, but it's actually a vent for the crawl space. And sometimes you'll see them, they're completely closed off. Sometimes you'll see where like the actual vent cover is missing, which is not good because animals can get in there. That's a whole other issue. Now you typically want them venting properly unless you have some sort of sealed encapsulation done. That's different because that has its own system. There's been a dehumidifier put in there, etc. But that being said, also in the attic, you want proper ventilation as well. This could be your ridge vents. It just depends on what's going on. Maybe you might see the vent on, like you'll see a vent on the side of the like above the garage where the attic is. You know what I'm saying. It's giving Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. You know, he's like yelling at Ellen. I think that's the wife's name. And he's stuck in there. Attic vent, right? Anyways, okay. Crawl space, foundation vents closed, blocked, or loose. That's like I was saying, they're typically rectangular in there in a crawl space. Insufficient number of foundation vents, poor ventilation. So maybe the whole foundation has one vent for the crawl space. Probably not ideal because where's air going to flow to? Like there's just one way in and one way out. Like we need a flow. We need it to flow, right? Attic ventilation in attic, ridge vent blocked, too small. Ridge vents, typically they come up when on the roofing situation. Like if there's an issue with the ridge vent, that's going to come up also on your roofing. Soffit vents missing or blocked, sometimes by insulation. So is anything where a vent that should be venting is blocked. So, you know, just things to think about when it comes to your ventilation. Now, these kind of issues, this insulation, ventilation stuff on the sell side, to me, it would be hard to know for the most part, unless it's literally your dryer vent, because that's going to be obvious. You don't necessarily know where your bathroom vents are venting, right? So some of these are going to be harder to avoid on the sell side. On the buy side, know that these are things on the crawl space, on the attic. Like some people have a hard line about ventilation in either of those places. And if you're not going to be comfortable with the current situation, then you ask for the repair. If it's able to be negotiated, great. And if not, you move on. It just depends on your tolerance for these items. Some honorable mentions in this one. Pest activity and insulation, which it sounds disgusting, but it happens often. This is tunnels, holes, trails, nesting materials. The worst I had was like an intrusive raccoon situation in the attic, and they were all up in the insulation, like completely destroyed. But also, according to the inspector, they leave a very stank scent. Not good. Okay. Insulation is falling loose in the crawl space of floor system. Actually, I think we see this more than some of the others, but not according to this analysis. Insulation is falling or loose. you can typically ask for that to be repaired. And then another thing that you see sometimes with insulation is put on backwards. Come on. Again, as a seller, you wouldn't know that. That's probably something a buyer's going to ask because it's backwards and it can't work properly, you know? Attic entry air gaps around attic access doors. That's not what I see as so much. I mean, that to me is, you know, it is what it is. Okay, so here's your summary. Top 5 insulation and ventilation issues related to homes in the Knoxville and Easton area, according to 150 home inspection reports. Number 1, back vents venting into the attic. Number 2, crawl space moisture barrier missing. Number 3, attic insulation is low or there's voids in it. Number 4, dryer vent defects. And number 5, ventilation is inadequate either in the attic or the crawl space, or worst case, both. So those are your top 5 most frequently mentioned insulation and ventilation issues when it comes to home inspections in the area. So as a seller, again, this one's a little bit more difficult to address ahead of time. As a buyer, these are things to kind of look out for on your home inspection report, because most of the time, most buyers don't go into attics. Some do if it's easily accessible and there's stairs and like it's not like sketchy to get up there and you feel like you don't want to fall through the roof, whatever. Some could care less. Some buyers likewise will go through the crawl space. And even then, these ventilation issues, like typically when somebody's looking through a crawl space, like you can see there's a ducting issue, or like you can tell the plumbing is old, or you can see like there's spliced wiring, but you're not really checking for ventilation within the crawl space. Is my experience with all my clients. That being said, this is an area that you certainly want to lean on the home inspector's findings, and then if you have questions, then you're going to call a professional who is specialized in whatever area you have a question about and have them check out the report. Or maybe they go check out the crawl space, see what's going on, or the attic, or the insulation, all of those things. So anyways, as always, I hope this has been helpful. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. I'm going to be honest with you. I think insulation and ventilation is just like boring. Okay, so hopefully if you're still here, you might have just woken up from a nap, or maybe you thought this was thrilling. Okay, so that being said, always click subscribe because I have so much more to share with you. Of course, if you need a real estate agent, please call me. That is, in full disclosure, why I make these videos, so I can work with people like you to make their real estate dreams come true. So anyways, I'm Haley Jones, and I'll see you on the next video.